Welcome to Three Questions, sponsored by the Washington State Democratic 18th Legislative District. I'm your host, Wil Fuentes. Folks, shit is rolling down the hill from Washington, D.C., which impacts our state, it impacts our counties, it impacts our local communities. On this show, we invite folks that know what's going on the ground, and we have meaningful conversations and find solutions to these issues. My guest today is Chris Brown. Chris, welcome to Three Questions. It's a pleasure to have you here today. We're going to be talking a little bit about the February 10th special election. So why don't we get started with a few questions?
All right, let's go.
Question number one. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, my name is Chris Brown. I'm a lifelong Battleground resident, born and bred. Actually was homeschooled, so I never went to Battleground public schools, but I grew up in the community. I am currently the chair of the Parks and Community Engagement Board for the city. Kind of dipping my toes into a little bit of giving back to the civic engagement in our community and making things a little better. Currently, I am a class assistant in the woodshop program at Battleground High School, and prior to that was a communications specialist for the district.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing a little bit about yourself. Question number two. Okay, Chris, so tell me a little bit about this levy that you're going to share about, right? And why is it important?
Yeah, so I think a lot of folks know, and if you live in the Battleground community, you've probably read the conversations ad nauseum if you're online, or it's kind of the talk of the town for a lot of folks. This levy makes up about 14 to 15% of the district's overall funding. We are currently in a double levy failure, meaning that at the start of this year, we no longer have levy revenue coming in. We are now the only district in Southwest Washington without a levy to fund our educational and operations.
Oh, wow.
So we have a capital levy that's going to replace some roofs and do replace some things for some programs. This is our educational programs and operations levy, which is a primary funding thing for the district. So the district has already had to make $14 million in cuts. If this levy doesn't pass, they're not going to run it again this year because they're going to have to spend all their time working to make another almost $20 million in cuts. So anybody who has kids in the district, has been in and around the district, I think they've already seen the impact of that $14 million in cuts, and it's hard to imagine where you're going to find another $20 million if this doesn't pass. So it's a very important levy. Obviously, it's important primarily that people not let other people speak for them. I think currently turnout, the last time I checked, was less than 10%, and we need people to show up. Whichever way you're going to vote, we need people to show up because it's an important decision that has to be made, and the community needs to be involved at a higher rate than that. This levy funds extra teachers, it funds extra security, it funds nurses. Basically, it funds anything above and beyond what the state provides as the basic bedrock funding for public education. So the other point that I like to make to people is a local levy is also your bit of control, because the funding that comes down from the state is going to be controlled. The state's going to say, we're giving you this funding, this is what we want you to use it for. The local levy funding represents an amount of funding that the local populace votes on. And as such, it is the money that they have to be able to go to the district and say, this is what we'd like you to prioritize. We would like you to maybe add a couple extra nurses, maybe some more security, replace some fencing, improve your ingress and egress systems with key cards and better cameras and those kinds of things. Whether it's we want sports, we were able to bring back sports into our middle schools after the last levy passed. We've had to remove those because they're no longer funded. Those kinds of things. So it really represents your ability to go to your local school board and say, of that money, here's how we would like you to prioritize it. So I think that's another important element that people need to understand. If you want your local school district to more closely represent the community that they abide in, those levy dollars are how you accomplish that.
Hi. Chris, quick follow-up. Historically, how does the Battleground School District levy compare to other levies in the area?
It's a great question. And historically, we have been among the lowest in terms of local tax rates. So if you look at, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I believe Evergreen Public Schools is somewhere around 430 something if you take all of their local taxes and combine it. They have a technology levy and an EPNO levy. We historically, when we had the EP&O levy before, it was $1.68. And then add the capital levy on top of that was another 30, I'm blanking on that, 32 cents, somewhere around that.
Mm-hmm.
So a total tax rate that's still less than half of what the highest district in Clark County charges its residents. And I think that if you look at historically, Battleground has been able to accomplish a lot with the money that they've gotten. And I think that should be credited to them. I can certainly understand people's frustration. Any tax that you see that arrives as a bill, you want to know what that money is going to, and the opaqueness sometimes and the difficulty of trying to understand where that money is going. I think people struggle with that. But I would encourage anybody to go visit a school, go visit the district office, go sit down with their CFO, go ask them questions, go tour a facility, because you'll find that they're doing an incredible amount with the money that they've been given. Sometimes, if you were to ask me, a little bit too good of a job, because it's not as obvious the struggle sometimes, I think, for people who have kids in the district maybe, or who are just driving by a building and they see clean lawns and new roofs and those kinds of things, and they think to themselves, well, they don't need all that money. Look at how great everything looks. Well, everything looks great because they were able to catch up over a double levy failure from almost over a decade ago. So they've been able to scramble, and now they're getting punished because they've done too good with the money they've been given, in my view.
Right. Well, kudos to the school district for keeping their schools well maintained and their students well educated. Question number 3, Chris. Why is passing this levy, even for those who don't have children, incredibly important for your community?
You said it right there. Your community. It's your community. And the schools are part of your community. And even if you don't have kids, if your kids are grown and they've graduated, or you never had kids, or you haven't yet had kids, you don't have any connection to those schools. Maybe you homeschool. But it is your community, and strong schools are part of a strong community. I like to say that the other thing that people need to understand is that the first levy failing was like the check engine light coming on in your car. And now we're driving with the check engine light on because we don't have the finances to go get it checked. But anybody who's owned a car or owned a home knows that the longer you go without checking into that problem, heck, the longer you go without checking into that symptom that you might have in your own body, the higher the chances are that the fix is going to be far more expensive down the road. We all know things aren't getting cheaper. And so the point that I like to make to people is, even if you don't have a kid in the school, even if you don't have a connection to that building that you drive by every day, you do. You may not think you do, but you do, because it affects your community, because if you decide now that you can't afford this, it's not going to get cheaper. Because one of two things are going to happen. Either we're going to have to run a levy again later, and we're going to have put off all kinds of repairs and curriculum upgrades and all those kinds of things. And so we're going to have a huge ask down the road. Or, God forbid, the district goes insolvent, gets absorbed into a surrounding district. Now you're paying Evergreen's $3.48 rate or whatever they're paying.
Just higher, yeah.
So it's important because a rising tide lifts all boats, right? And historically, we have understood that society's responsibility, my generation's responsibility, is to the next generation. That a responsible society says, what can I do to make my kids' reality a little better? And I think that's why it matters.
I love the analogy that you used about the check engine. I think most of us can probably relate to that, right? There's that sense of urgency when we see it to get it fixed, but if we don't, if we put it off, it will get more expensive. So I'm curious. You said you're a lifelong resident, born and bred in the city of Battleground. If this passes, or if it doesn't pass, how will this impact business? How will it impact Battleground at large? How does it impact the community?
Well, it impacts, we have a lot of blue-collar business out of Battleground, and they very much value the trades, skilled trades programs that we have. And we have great skilled trades programs at our high schools. And even some of our middle schools. We have a middle school, Lauren Middle School, that has wood shop. How many middle schools have a wood shop now?
I didn't even know they had wood shops anymore.
Right? Those are the kinds of things that we can offer, and we can offer those kinds of things because it's valuable to our community, because we know that the businesses that operate in and around Battleground value those kinds of things.
Right.
But the reality of the situation is those kinds of things are going to have to that kind of funding is going to have to be absorbed in other places to staunch the bleeding and things that are essential to education. And so we risk some of those skilled trades programs going away. We risk the chance that those businesses are going to go elsewhere, because if you're trying to plant your roots in somewhere where you're going to have high skilled, highly educated students coming out of a school system that can provide the instruction that they need for the real world. Instruction that's not mired in 20 or 30 years ago because it can't be updated and upgraded. Yeah. And ultimately, are those businesses going to decide that we want to go somewhere else, even if the tax burden's a little higher, because we know that we can hire good people coming out of those schools. Right.
I actually took woodshop class in 6th grade.
Did you?
Absolutely. I know, it's kind of weird because the middle school I go to no longer has, and it hasn't had woodshop in many, many years. I was able to build a little house.
Yeah, you know how important those things are to the businesses and to our community. And I think it's important for people to think about that and understand that you might be making a decision today that you feel is very essential to your personal financial health and well-being. But the point that I'm trying to make is that it's going to cost more in the long run, and it's going to potentially have a negative impact on your home value, the value of your community. You might find that even though you think you're going to save more, you're now paying more taxes because your home value fell. And so now there's less to spread around. Those are the kinds of things that I think people really need to keep in mind, that second order of thinking of, hey, I can appreciate that this tax is a burden on you. I can appreciate that it's difficult sometimes to continue to see the cost of things going up and up and up. But at the same time, the cost of things does not make education less valuable. It doesn't make it, we have a lot of problems we have to solve. We're not going to solve them by throwing less money at them. We're going to solve them by getting involved. We're going to solve them by getting off our couch, getting on our feet, going and getting involved in the schools, volunteering, becoming, educated on what schools do. And then we can come alongside them and help them build the next generation. And then we can understand where the money is going and why it's going.
That's right. You're paying it forward. Chris, it's been a pleasure. But before we go, remind us again when this special election is happening.
February 10th.
And who should go out and vote?
Everybody should
Absolutely,
go out and vote.
everyone, right?
If you're in the Battleground School District, please go and vote.
Chris, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And that's our show for today. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell, and we'll see you next time.